When I was a kid, there was a house in my neighborhood that everyone avoided. It wasn't abandoned exactly. There were curtains, lights, and sometimes faint music coming from inside. But no one had ever seen anyone go in or out. I didn't think much of it until I moved back years later after college. The neighborhood looked almost the same, except that house still stood there. Dark green paint peeling, windows perfectly clean, like someone wiped them every day. My new neighbor, Mrs. Hill, warned me not to walk near it at night. People see things, she said, and then the house changes. I laughed it off until I didn't. One night, I was walking home from work, around 11:30. The street was empty except for that house. Its porch light flickered faintly like it was trying to get my attention. I slowed down. Through the front window, I saw someone standing there, a tall figure, motionless, facing the street. I froze, then blinked, and the lights went out. A second later, the house wasn't there. Not dark, gone. In its place was just an empty lot, grass wet with dew under the moonlight. I ran the rest of the way home. The next morning, I went back. The house was there again. Same peeling paint, same porch light. I asked Mrs. Hill about it, but she just shook her head. She said, "It does that sometimes. You're lucky you only saw it disappear." For the next few weeks, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I even tried to take photos, but every picture came out blurred, like the camera didn't want to focus. So one night, I did something stupid. I went closer.
The door was unlocked. Inside smelled like dust and rainwater, though everything looked neat. Furniture arranged perfectly, a candle flickering on the table though no one was there to light it. And then, I noticed something odd. A picture frame on the wall. It was a photo of my street, my house, and me, walking past. Except, I hadn't walked past yet. I was wearing the same clothes I had on that night. The candle flickered harder, and I heard footsteps upstairs. Slow, heavy, coming closer. I backed away, but the front door had vanished. Just smooth wall where it used to be. I turned and saw that figure again, at the top of the stairs. No face, just an outline, watching, waiting. Then I blinked, and everything went dark. When I woke up, I was standing outside. The house was gone again. The grass beneath me was untouched, but my hands smelled faintly of candle wax. The photo frame was lying on the ground at my feet, now empty. I moved out 2 days later. Sometimes I'd drive through that area just to see if it's still there. And every now and then, when the fog rolls in thick, I catch a glimpse. That faint green porch light glowing in the distance, calling me back. But I've learned my lesson. Some houses don't want visitors, and some don't want to stay put. If this story made you double check your neighborhood tonight, hit the like button, subscribe for more true style paranormal stories, and let me know in the comments, would you have stepped inside?
I moved into my new apartment last winter. It wasn't much, a one-bedroom on the 9th floor of an old brick building downtown. The hallways smelled like dust and paint thinner, and the elevator made a sound like someone sighing every time it stopped. Still, the rent was cheap, and after months of searching, that was good enough for me. On my first night, I noticed the door across from mine, 9B, was sealed shut with heavy tape. The doorknob was missing, and a faded sign hung from a nail,
"Do not enter. Maintenance." Strange, but in buildings like this, you learn not to ask questions. For weeks, nothing happened. Then one night, around 2 a.m., I awoke to the sound of someone whispering in the hallway. At first, I thought it was a neighbor talking on the phone, but when I pressed my ear to the door, the whispering stopped, and a faint knock came from the other side. Not my door, 9B. I waited, heart pounding. Another whisper, softer this time. "Can you hear me?" The voice was calm, almost polite. A woman's voice, distant but close enough that it felt like she was standing just inches away. I didn't answer. The next morning, the tape around 9B was gone. The door looked clean, freshly painted, like nothing had ever been wrong with it. I asked the super, and he frowned. 9B? That apartment's empty. Been empty for years. He changed the subject before I could ask more. That night, the voice came back. "Please, help me. I can't get out." It sounded scared now, desperate. I told myself it was just pipes, the wind, maybe a prank. But then came a soft scrape, like fingernails dragging slowly down the other side of the wall. I barely slept. A few days later, I decided to knock 3 times. No answer. But when I turned to leave, I heard the peephole rattle. Someone was looking through. From the inside.
My phone buzzed. A new voicemail. No number, no caller ID. Just a whisper. "Thank you for knocking." The message ended with a loud metallic bang, like a door slamming. When I checked the hallway again, 9B's door was slightly open, dark inside, and a cold draft rolled out, smelling faintly of rain and old perfume. I leaned closer. "Hello?" Something moved in the dark. Not footsteps, more like fabric shifting, or someone turning in bed. Then a woman's voice, right beside my ear. "You're in the wrong apartment." The door slammed shut. The force threw me backward. When I looked again, the tape was back, sealed tight, dust freshly scattered around the seams. The super avoided me for the rest of the week. I finally cornered him near the laundry room and demanded answers. He sighed, looked around, and said quietly, "That apartment belonged to a woman named Claire. She went missing 10 years ago. Police never found her, but people still hear her voice sometimes, especially new tenants." He tried to smile, but his hands were shaking. That night, I pushed a note under 9B's door. Just one sentence. "If you can hear me, what do you want?" I didn't expect an answer, but the next morning, there was a note slid under my door. Same paper, same handwriting. It read, "Switch apartments with me." I packed that evening. Before leaving, I took one last look down the hall. The door to 9B was wide open. Inside, the apartment looked identical to mine. Same furniture, same layout, but covered in dust, untouched for years. And on the far wall, written in the grime of the window, was a message. "You already did." If this story made you listen twice before opening a door, hit like to let me know, subscribe for more real-style paranormal stories, and comment below. What would you have done if 9B whispered your name?
I used to work the night shift at a university library, the one attached to old Building 47. It wasn't the kind of place students visited often. The lights flickered, the heating barely worked, and the whole basement smelled faintly of mold and old ink. But the pay was decent, and the quiet suited me. The basement had an archive. Rows of metal cabinets filled with decades of forgotten records, student files, security logs, old newspaper clippings. Most of it was junk. But behind the last row of cabinets was a locked metal door. It had no label, no keyhole, just a numeric keypad. When I asked about it, the head librarian, Mrs. Green, said, "That's not part of our inventory. Pretend it isn't there." She smiled when she said it, but her eyes didn't. Weeks went by before I thought about that door again. Then, one night, around 3 a.m., the power cut out. Total blackout. I grabbed my flashlight and went downstairs to check the fuse box. Halfway down the corridor, I noticed something strange. The keypad on that unmarked door was glowing, faintly, even though the power was gone. A soft blue light, pulsing in rhythm. As I got closer, the screen flickered and displayed a message. It said, "Access granted." I froze. There hadn't been a sound, but the door had unlocked itself. I should have gone upstairs. Instead, I pushed it open. Inside was another room, smaller, colder. Rows of filing cabinets, older than the rest, lined the walls. A faint buzzing sound filled the air, like an old fluorescent lamp trying to wake up. And on the far side of the room stood a single desk with a reel-to-reel tape recorder. It was already playing. The tape hissed for a moment, then a man's voice came through. Archive log 947. Entry attempt successful. Subject displays consistent distortion. Then silence. A few seconds later, the same voice again. But it was mine, word for word, repeating what I had just heard. I stepped back. The air felt thick, like I was underwater. Then I heard footsteps behind me. I turned, flashlight shaking. No one, just the door, slowly closing by itself. The next morning, I asked Mrs. Green if there had ever been a second archive room. She paused for a long time before answering. "There used to be," she said, quietly. "But it was sealed off after the incident." "What incident?" I asked. She didn't answer. She just said, "If you ever hear your own voice when you're alone down there, don't reply." I laughed it off until it happened again. A few nights later, while sorting old thesis papers, I heard my voice, clearly, coming from the hallway. "Can you bring the light?" it said. Calm. Familiar. Exactly my tone. I froze. It spoke again. "Please come back to the archive." I ran upstairs and locked the door behind me. I quit 2 days later. But on my last shift, as I was packing my things, a new envelope appeared in my mailbox. No return address. Inside was a cassette tape labeled Archive Log
948. I didn't play it. I threw it into a box and tried to forget about it. Months passed. I moved to another city, started a new job, but last week, my new office received an anonymous shipment, a small metal cabinet identical to the ones from Building 47. No sender. Inside the top drawer was a single keycard and a note. It said, "Welcome back, archivist." If this story gave you chills, hit that like button to let me know and subscribe for more real-style paranormal tales you wish you didn't play after midnight. Comment below, would you have opened that archive door?